From the entrepreneur's desk
to the industry front lines
and into real world operations.
I'm Aaron Cardell, joined by Kyle Hunter and Jake Hamilton, and we're here to take the pulse of real estate technology in just 20 minutes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Proptech Pulse today. Today, we have a special guest, Vanessa Bergmark with Red Oak Realty. So, Vanessa, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your brokerage.
Hi, thanks for having me today. A little bit about myself. Well, I've been in real estate for 20 plus years, I think 22 years. And I've run Red Oak Realty for the last 17 years, as an owner for the last, I think it's 15. And it's over on the East Bay. So it's a smaller brokerage. It's still what we consider a boutique independent. It's located out of the East Bay region of San Francisco. So we're across the bay. We always like to say that we have the better view. We have limited fog and we get the drop dead gorgeous view of the San Francisco Bay Area. All the bridges, all the bells and whistles. But we've been operating over there for, the business has actually been around for about 50 years, the brokerage. So next year will be 50 years old.
Wow, 50 years.
I did not start it, just so we get things off on the right foot here. It's just started several decades before me.
Yeah, well, 15 years as an owner, that's a long time. And, you say you boutique, but 160, 180 agents, something like that. That's pretty big. It's a lot of people to deal with.
Yeah, well, it's a larger boutique, but it's still, I think it's like, when you look at a boutique, it's got a lot of independent thought. We can, bring in new products, swap out products. Like there's not that sort of corporate overlay. Of course, the bigger you get, the more policy you have to get just to keep from, pure chaos. But it offers that it's still I think look at it as a very evolving brokerage where nothing really stays the same. Our client doesn't stay the same. The community is constantly changing. So we've kind of changed with it. So I think that's what's cool about it. When I call it a boutique, that's probably why.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, that ties in, and I, appreciate the topic today. Really want to focus in on how you as a broker, running a boutique brokerage, but obviously, with a good bit of size, but how you relate to partners and vendors in the space. You being on the Lone Wolf Customer Advisory Board, we thought it would be a great opportunity for you to kind of share some of the ins and outs of, how you prefer to work with vendors, how do you choose vendors, red flags, things like that. But, maybe we'll start out with, what's your perspective on kind of that partnership, that relationship between a provider?
Well, it's funny. And I think in real estate, we all say it's all about relationships, right? I mean, we're certainly talking about that from the level of the real estate agent to the home buyer or seller. And that, I think, is the entire ecosystem of real estate. It's not just because every one of those partners affects the relationship between that agent, that like core relationship between that agent and that consumer. So, I mean, it's invaluable. It's what really, I think it's what's made the industry so sticky and so particular is that relationship really, really matters because ultimately it can fall apart right in the middle of a transaction, or it can fall apart long-term with a brokerage after a contract's been signed. So I think it starts kind of right there at that very, very like nexus of the transaction, and then it flows all the way up. And it matters with the lender, right? It matters the agent and the broker, but it certainly matters the broker if they want to keep that very tight relationship with their agent, and then ultimately with that home buyer and seller, because they're really kind of the next level. The agent's really the one in the middle. Is they've got to get really, really good partners to support them, to support the agent. So, and tech is a funny thing because the boots on the ground real estate relationship is very personal, like, belly to belly, but it's face to face. Yes, we use tech tools, but it's really very interpersonal. Technology, though, it always has felt like it's behind this screen, right? That it's something that the regular human interfaces with, they don't really understand. Like if you ask me, how does the back end of your website work, or what makes your transaction management system work, or the back end of a I don't really think about it. It's like, how does a light bulb work? And then all of a sudden, when you think about it, it gets very not transparent and it's not very clear. So having that trust in the vendor that understands that language, that is taking care of all those things for you is somewhat crucial, because I don't understand it. And if I can't understand it, and then every time I ask my vendor, hey, I'm confused about this, or this isn't working, and you don't get a call back, or it gets dismissed, or they don't like look at you and say, I get it, this is kind of complicated, let me make you feel comfortable with what we're doing for you, then there's a breakdown, right? And then there becomes the suspicion, because it's not something I can look at it and go, oh, I can look at this, I don't need to call my vendor rep, I don't need to call them because I thoroughly understand it. It's like algebra, or maybe some people get that too, I didn't. But it's kind of complex. It's not something that the normal person can pick up. So you just have to have that trust. So that's what matters, right? It's sort of this shrouded thing that you guys understand, but we don't. And certainly our agent doesn't. And then a lot of times the consumer doesn't. So we don't want to have that breakdown with them. That comes from something that vendor has control over.
Sure, and that's a good point. I mean, it is about relationships. To your point of real estate in general, so you have to have that relationship between, with your partner as well. But it is different because technology, like you said, you just want it to work, and you just want to have that ability to rely on it. But if there is something going on, you want to have a partner, and so. Kind of on that thread a little bit, we've talked about you being independent a couple times. So you're not a brand that, or I should say with a franchise or a national brand or someone who's providing technology. Right. So a lot of those decisions, you're having to go through that process. Tell us a little bit maybe about how you've selected different vendors and what makes what makes that work, what makes that fail. Talk through a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I think like anything, yes, if it's not served up and coming in a package, like where somebody hands it to you and says, these are the vendors and you're kind of done, then you do have to put a lot of thought in it. I will say I'm in a lot of independent groups, stuff with leading RE. So I have a lot of relationship with other independents throughout the nation and the globe. Just networking groups, because we kind of need to rely on each other, and a lot will come. First of all, usually they'll come as a referral, and it's interesting. It will come as a do not work with this vendor, or this vendor's actually been really, really great. I'm trying their product. Their team is amazing, and so a lot of it comes just again very similar to how agents get their business and how the industry overall works. Is it comes from a word of mouth of either stay away or check it out. And so usually we start with a check it outs. And then it really does come down to, you could look at the product and see that the product is really amazing, but you could also get a vibe of how many people are on their team, how much training do they offer? What is their sort of philosophy and how they run? And even though the product looks amazing, you might realize that the philosophical way of how they're running the business is probably not going to align very well with what you're doing. And so product aside, there could be very similar products, and maybe some's got a couple of cooler features than the other, but you're going to see, hey, I'm not sure I'm ever going to get a call back. Or I asked, hey, have you ever thought about doing this in the initial phone call? And they're like, yeah, no. Or you just get that, like there's going to be one that this is sort of a static product and it is what it is. And this is what it costs. And this is how it works. Or yeah, we're trying to build this out, or you know what, it's gone through a few evolutions. And so you feel that person out. So that's how I've made the decisions. And I could probably say, I can't speak on behalf of everyone, but I think in a lot of independents, that is how you make it. You could love that product. It could be the right price. It could have all the right features. They could have it totally scaled, but it's not going to be the one you choose because it lacks that you're like, will you get a phone call back? Will you get an email back? Are your agents, if something goes wrong, are they going to be there to say, we'll figure it out?
Yeah, no, it's important to have trust and to understand that, somebody will be on the other side, even like you said, if it's a great fit. I think it's interesting that you brought up just the referral aspect of it, and the fact is somebody says, hey, don't use that. But also, hey, this has worked out well, and this is what's good, because just the referrals in general are such a big part of the real estate industry, whether it's your customers as an agent, or just all the different aspects, having that personal connection and someone to be able to validate, something that you're looking at is always important. So definitely a good tip there. Maybe tell us about something that that was successful, where you went down a road, you were looking to solve something with a technology solution, and you kind of went through that process and it worked out, or maybe something that you would have done differently next time.
I've in the years that I've worked on this, I've rarely had a technology partner that I signed with that was so awful that I pulled the program. And I think that a lot of that has been that we really, really test it out first, or we meet with them several times and we've gone really far down the road and then changed our mind and not signed up. So I think that really testing things out and not being like, oh, this brokerage down the block used it, or was referred here, or my company as a franchise maybe said, this is great. I still think you've got to say what works for you and your agents and your clients. So that's kind of the first thing was I haven't had miserable experiences, but I think the thing with technology is, like humans, it evolves, right? And so what worked for us 5 years ago may not be evolving at the same speed of which, the way we're currently, whether it's, processing our transactions or processing loans or, giving reports and data. I mean, now stats is just so much of our business because we have the tools and the technology has evolved out there in the world. You've got the ability to really harness a lot of data about what you're doing right or how to assess things that we never had access to. So there are certain companies that you've maybe worked with, and again, back in the day, they were just fine, but they haven't put the energy and the R&D and the research. They've kind of left the product there and just been like, it's good enough. And that can work for a while, but eventually it starts to fail. And you need to go back. I imagine a lot of times you've got a big company with a lot of different tech products, but sometimes you've got to go back to those ones that were keeping clients and we're moving along. And now they're not moving along anymore, and they need to be reevaluated. And so finding a vendor that does that is crucial. We have had, we could bring up the issue with working with Loanwolf. We've been a partner with you for a long time. You came in and really rescued me. Oh, that was true. You rescued me in a really tough situation where I had a website, wasn't going in the right direction, moved over to a different company, and they decided to kind of pull the plug on what they were building. And I was, roughly 8 weeks away from launch, and came in, used what we had, were able to kind of take the recipe that had already been built, come in there with your team. And it's been my website, I think, for like about 8-9 years. But then sometimes after a while, it just doesn't work the way you need it to anymore. There's certain levers that are like kind of rusty, and the consumers are demanding a different interface. And then the agents, because the consumers, their clients are asking for it, are asking us. And then there was some limitations. We went out, we talked to a lot of providers, and there's great providers out there. There really are. There were some great companies, but there really was a really long-standing history and an interface and that we'd had that we did trust. And I think it was really great that rather than just walk away and say, we're just going to go with the new ones, they're looking like they could do everything we want. They're looking like they're excited to get the project, and we're just going to, we're going to pull out of this and go for it. We didn't. And that was not because it was, just simply, oh, it's just easier to stay with the devil, It was that you really brought everyone into the team. You really sat down and made my marketing team and the tech people within my company feel seen and heard, and didn't just give them an answer like, we can fix this, we can fix this. You thought about it, you brought it back, you came up with some solutions. It really was, I told them, you can do whatever you want, because ultimately the decision is yours. I want you to own what you select. So if you decide you want to go and you want to bail and you want to go somewhere new, or if you want to stay and work it out. And they were at first like, no, we're out. And they all recommitted to saying, no, we really think we want, we were surprised, but they hit the ball out of the park, and they really have shown up, and consistently. Even like 2 days ago, I checked in, they're moving it along. They've slowed down the timeline for us because we're a little behind, but they still showed up with the entire team. They got what they said they would get done, was done. And so it's not just like, oh, we signed the contract and saved a transaction, but it was, you recommitted to your client. And retention is so important, right? Because if you've got that good relationship and that candor with your clients, you know that they're going to tell you the truth about the product when it is and is not working for them. They're not just going to bang on your door for the hell of it. And you really do want to keep a good company and you want to keep a good vendor, right? I think it's probably equally as important to you at Lone Wolf to keep a good company.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it really has a lot of parallels with, with probably one of your main daily activities, which is recruiting and retention, and from your case, you're bringing in agents, but, you have to focus on the good agents that are there because, you can't just take it for granted. And so being able to reevaluate and ensure that, you are, and like you said, things change, the needs that you had 5 years ago are different. And whether it's the market, whether it's the size and scale of the brokerage, whether it's changes in, the way that you're doing business, you have to be able to kind of continually grow and make sure that you are, a true partnership as opposed to just, yes, we got it over the fence. So that, I think really resonates. And then the other point that you made, I think is really when you're selecting is put in your due diligence. It sounds like, from your perspective, not making a bad decision a lot of times is making sure you put that work in up front. And whether that's validating, everything that you are looking at and making sure that you're cutting through some of maybe the promises or some of the things that, if it's too good to be true, then maybe it is. But really getting comfortable with the company that you're going to be engaging with and truly partnering with to help drive your business. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what the technology solutions are there to do, is to try to help, grow your business and make sure that you're efficient. So.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was gonna say, as a CEO or as a sometimes owners and CEOs, we move fast. That's how we think. That's why we're in the positions. We look at things, we make quick judgments, and I can usually make a judgment very quickly. But there are those granular details, and I think also too, letting your team really drive that. They're the ones that are going to be interfacing with it. Like there's a lot of things I'd be like, this looks great, or this is a great price, and they're like, we're the ones that have to use it all day. So I think there is that, like, taking that time to do that due diligence really does matter as well. So I really encourage anyone, like, yes, ultimately the decision, and we're signing the checks and the decision is ours, but you do have to run it through your entire staff team, and you do have to let the agent kind of play with it a little as well before you do that, because taking your time getting in is a lot more beneficial than making the wrong decision and trying to get out. It's super disruptive. So I'd rather take a really, really long time and take a really long runway getting in than really making a mistake and having to bail.
Yeah, I mean, and that is a very important, having a buy-in from the folks that are actually doing on a day in, day out basis. And, Lone Wolf has a lot of different solutions. Some of them are interfacing with the agent. Some of them, are back office and accounting and things like that. And, making the decision and making a wrong decision about a technology, it's not just the cost of actually buying or, entering into a contract or the price of the solution. It's the time and energy that goes into making it work up front and having it successful, and, making sure you have that right selection can, really help, make sure that you're on the right track. So.
Yeah, it keeps the faith. It keeps the faith, because otherwise people are going to start losing faith in you, like just making rapid fire decisions and not taking into consideration of how it's going to affect every level of your company, all the way down to that homeowner, right?
Yep, absolutely. So we got a couple minutes left. Last couple points that I'd love to maybe hear your thoughts on, like what resources for brokers looking to improve kind of their selection and their management process. I mean, you told us about some of the things you do, but if you were, let's say, a smaller boutique brokerage or independent brokerage that is, maybe not part of leading RE, maybe, they're going out on their own and there's, and they're trying to do it from scratch. Like what types of things would you inform them to do to make sure that they're making that right decision?
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of a summary of what we just said. It's if you don't have a huge staff fitting it and you're using it, then you take your time using it, right? Don't run out there and just, fill up a room. It's almost like when you're decorating a house. Like, don't go in there and try to get it done in a day. I mean, there's a couple of things. Obviously, your finance system, if you're running a brokerage, is huge, right? Like, so many people think about, like, let me get the office and let me get the agents and, let me make sure there's marketing. And yes, that matters.
That's the fun part.
That's like always, everyone wants to do that. Like, let's come up with a brand and let's make our pretty flyers and and that all matters. But like, if I were recommending you're starting out or you're breaking off into a team and whatnot, have a really good finance platform, right? Have something where you can see your numbers every day. Make sure that platform when you start there, it then integrates with the other facing platforms. And I think a lot of people start with the front and then worry about the back. I might be thinking a little bit differently. You might want to consider that back and then you start doing the front, because everyone's going to be on board for the front. That you can get done quickly. That's going to be the fun part. That other stuff, it could be a real pain. And if you can't access your numbers, you can't access your data, you don't know where your files are, you could put yourself out of business before you, hand out your first brochure. So I think that's one of the things is really making sure you look at that and start there first. Even if it's just small, have something that you can bit by bit. And then when you grow your team, it's accessible to them. Get that thing in place. And then take your time adding in all the bells and whistles. You can really function with a small brokerage with a lot of off-the-shelf products. You don't have to go crazy with it. And then as you grow, as you add, there are certain things that you really need. And there are certain things that are, really distracting. One thing I will say is, and we've talked about this before, transaction management, no one thinks it's sexy. No one wants to talk about files or contracts or things. It's the bulk of your business in this world. It does matter. It really does matter. All the marketing tools out there, you could, like throw your hands out and knock them over. There's so many offerings. But I think that's the thing that I'm always more intrigued with is what are the ones that are really, really focusing on true pain points of a brokerage business owner. And those are the ones I think that I trust or I explore because they're looking at things that actually really matter and aren't just the shiny objects.
So it sounds like you're describing what a company needs is a strong foundation. A very strong back end foundation first, then think about the front end. Good deal. Well, Vanessa, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today. And we look forward to doing it in the future.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
That's our pulse for today.
Keep innovating.
Keep implementing.
And keep moving real estate forward.